HEABM, for Higher Educational Aids Board. And this, unlike the other one where it's academic achievement, this is more participation and for students who have a career pathway in a technical college program.
In high school?
It would be for seniors, this
Oh,
year's,
okay.
it's going to start this year, and it would be for this year's seniors, yes.
Okay.
And seniors every year thereafter
Okay.
who are applying to go to a technical college.
You know, you mentioned earlier in your comments that the two top students in the high school go to UW schools on scholarship. I guess I thought that wasn't in force any longer.
No, that's still the case.
Madison, or any school.
I believe any state, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I guess I thought that. So then therefore it would probably be what, the valedictorian, the salutatorian?
Not always the salutatorian, sometimes that is, I think that's picked by, I think it's the two top GPA students in the class. Because
But the-
sometimes the salutatorian is picked for other reasons than GPA, so.
Okay,
This one is
Okay.
not based on GPA at all. It's really based on participation that students have indicated an interest for a career path that takes them to a technical college.
Okay.
They have to be what's called a career and tech ed concentrator, that they've had
Okay.
3 or more classes. And
Okay.
it really is based on participation in both career and tech ed classes as well as the student organizations that go along with that. And so it could be, I mean, currently, and I serve in the areas of business, marketing, family, consumer science, health,
Okay.
occupations,
Tech ed,
technical
yeah.
education and engineering.
Okay.
But again, any career area that would involve going to a technical school would be included in this.
What about the health academy?
Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
okay, okay.
Health occupations
Well, I'm
would be
glad to
one
hear
area.
FACE programs, family and consumer ed programs
Yes.
qualify, because
Yes.
we sure have some wonderful programs there. Amy, thank you for answering my question.
Sure.
Good. Do we have any other questions?
And this language is designed by DPI and WASB, so if you have questions on who designed it, it was, we used a prototype to use towards our district, but generally this is a language that a lot of districts around the state are
Okay,
using.
makes sense.
Sounds like an excellent opportunity for our students, so that's just another good thing for our district. Okay, all those in favor of the potential new policy, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. The next, we have revisions to policy 4134, tutoring during the school day, and potential new policy 4134G, guidelines for tutoring during the school day.
Right, occasionally we have teachers that are approached by parents to do tutoring, and sometimes the teachers approach the parents, but anytime there's tutoring that goes on during the day, it potentially creates a conflict of interest, and we want to make sure that the language that allows tutoring doesn't create a conflict of interest. And so I asked Chris Edstrom to come tonight. She is the, I guess, one of the engineers of this particular, the new policy, the 4134G, the guidelines. So if you have questions on that, you can certainly ask her. But you can see there was a policy in place, and there's been quite a bit added to it to make sure that we're, we put some good controls on this. So we don't want, not that we don't want teachers tutoring, but we don't want anyone inadvertently violating any conflict of interest laws.
Ms. Brezink.
So, Chris, this refers to teachers, not to volunteers coming in. This refers to our teachers who do tutoring, like after school, during the summer, weekends, et cetera. Is that what this is for?
Actually, if I could just step back a second. And
Sure.
First of all, I neglected to change the title. What I would suggest is we change the title to tutoring services.
Ah, okay.
Well,
For
but
the-
that was the title, the previous
The
title. So the
previous
title
title
was
was
correct. but we do
tutoring
just
during
need
the
to- right,
school day
yeah.
is the title of the policy as it stands now. But what I would suggest is we cross out during the school day and we put in the word services.
Okay. Makes sense.
And then for the guidelines, if the committee chooses to do this, I would say it should be guidelines for tutoring services and cross out during the school day. Now, getting to your question, this would include anyone who is offering tutoring services to students. Right now, we have an education program, and employees, our district-approved volunteers, or people that work for contracted agencies are the people that perform services in our schools during the school day. So,
For example,
for example, we have volunteers working with kids.
like RSVP? Okay.
Yeah. So what this is tutoring, really services that are given that's outside of the school day. And I want to say that I am not aware of any problems with what we have right now. What I think might have happened is parents were asking for tutors. Can somebody help my son, daughter, after school, get extra help? Because all of our teachers, and they do provide remedial services. What we want to do is avoid getting the regular job mixed up with the extra help outside of the regular job. So my purpose in doing this is to just make it clear what you can and can't do during the workday, and make sure that students are getting all of the education they need and the remedial services that they need during the school day, and tutoring needs to be separate. So I'm just separating that out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
However, okay, continue.
Yes, continue.
You know, I get around schools, and I've noticed sometimes that there's a parent volunteer or a volunteer, whether it be from, you know, RSVP or from wherever, a volunteer sitting with a group of kids in the hallway, and I guess I thought that that was not acceptable, that when they work with kids, they're supposed to do it in the classroom under the, you know, supervision of the teacher. Could you clarify that for me, please?
I believe that we have volunteers and assistants that take small groups of students aside, and they work with students on whatever the topic is.
Aside, meaning not necessarily in the
It doesn't
classroom.
necessarily have to be in the classroom. It could be in
okay.
the hallway, it could be in a small pod.
Or in a library.
Yeah. So
Okay,
the schools are used as much as possible. What we want to do is make sure that students aren't, or this is tutoring for profit, basically.
this is what you're referring to. Okay,
Yeah.
that's entirely different. Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Any other questions on this? Do you want
Yes.
to discuss the guideline?
Just one more question.
Continue.
Does that mean that as a classroom teacher, I can't go to your house after school for pay to tutor your child?
If my child, if you're the teacher of my child,
And you want to hire me?
according to my proposal,
Yes.
a teacher would not be able to do
Tutor for-
additional tutoring for their own students
For pay.
Pay,
Okay,
because we're trying to avoid that conflict of interest.
okay. But could it be a teacher down the hall that's going to do that?
Yes.
Okay,
And I'll just tell you that our process right now is once a year, the people in the curriculum department gather the names of everyone who wants to tutor in the district that we pretty much accept as tutors. And then the list goes out to all of the school secretaries. And they
okay.
keep that on hand. And there's a caveat in there that pretty much says, we don't recommend or not recommend any of these people. This is just for reference for you, and you need to make your own arrangements if you want to hire one of these tutors.
So could a classroom teacher call me to help with a child, but of course with no pay?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
as part of their regular job, they could
Okay,
volunteer.
but I
to-
wouldn't be paid, I'd be a volunteer.
The purpose of this policy is
For
getting
pay.
paid for
Okay.
tutoring.
All right, gotcha, thank you.
Just to clarify, there's really two issues. One is, tutoring for pay during the school day. So as Chris noted, you don't want to mix up
No.
their job with this other type of job. And the other
Right.
one is, the reason well, another conflict is tutoring the kids that are in your class. You have to be very cautious about generating that kind of situation where you're in with a captive audience. Or, look, I can't work with you after school, but I can do some tutoring for compensation later on. So I think both these things are not necessarily designed to hurt teachers' opportunity to tutor, but it's to keep them safe, because there's a couple statutes that come into play here that someone could construe as being violated if it
Sure.
doesn't, if it's not handled properly.
So then it's discouraged, teachers are discouraged from tutoring their own students after school, even if it's not for pay.
No, they can do it. If not, no, that's never an issue.
Okay, that's
if
okay then.
That's-
the teacher
Just
wants to work with
extra
your
help.
students after school, that's.
I can do that,
There's never
okay.
an issue there. It's
Good.
only when compensation
good.
is involved, a little bit
Okay.
above
That's good.
the normal day.
All right, thank you. Little fuzzy there.
Yes, this definitely clarifies it before we do have a problem. So I think this is good. Any other questions, comments? Karen?
Thank you. So, number 4, line 31, the school facilities may not be used as a location for staff members to provide tutoring arranged under the private contract. Does that mean, there was an example about piano lessons? So if there was piano lessons, they would have to use it on either that child's piano at their house or the teacher's piano. They cannot use the school facilities for like piano lessons, right?
You're talking about the guidelines, and
Right.
the purpose of this policy is not to prevent staff members from providing things like piano lessons. It doesn't have any bearing on the students' grades, so there wouldn't be a conflict of interest for that. However, using the piano in the classroom, I believe, according to the policy, the teacher would need to follow the school facility, use of facilities policy. If they're getting paid money to teach someone piano lessons, I would think that there would be a cost to use our facilities to run their piano lesson business.
Right.
And then, number 6, so when you talked about that list that was given to all the secretaries in case someone wanted a tutor, so if they did want a tutor, then before that teacher were to tutor, they would have to have written permission from Todd?
Well, they're encouraged to. We're not forcing them to
Okay.
do that, but it would just, I think it would help identify any issues. We could clear those up before it even started.
I don't know if there was a lot that you were gonna have calls left and right, yes, you could, yes, or.
No, I typically in these kind of things, even though my name is in the policy, that's delegated to maybe HR or maybe the principal and so on. But
Okay.
it's just, the idea is to, we just want to protect the staff. In this particular case, and if there's an agreement in writing, we could spot if there's a problem that they might run into. And again, they might be very, very minor problems, but obviously those things can get blown out of proportion if they're not handled properly.
Just to clarify our process, there's a secretary in the curriculum department that pretty much just covers this whole tutoring process on her own. And so in terms of number 6, and I was rereading that and put a question mark there for myself even, because the purpose of this is not to have people go to Todd to get permission to tutor. When we put in the superintendent, the assumption is that the superintendent is delegating that duty, and in this case, this duty is being handled by a secretary in the curriculum department who pretty much puts a tutor list together and then sends that out to the schools. So somehow, we have a little bit of a process in how we're tutoring.
Okay.
Or how we're administering that tutoring process. Because we know people request tutors all the time, And without, short of running some type of a staffing, temporary staffing agency, this is working well. I just think we need to have some clear guidelines around it.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, Barbara?
There are some for-profit tutoring agencies out in the community. And kids go there after school Saturdays during the summer, et cetera. Are these agencies allowed to ask the school for student records?
I don't believe, the only way they could get a student record is if the parents signed off and picked up the records and brought them to them. But
Okay.
I can't imagine a situation where we would send those
Thank you.
directly.
Good.
I mean, parents are always entitled to the records.
Yes,
They can do.
yes, I
but
understand.
I wouldn't feel comfortable sending directly.
Right, thank you.
I don't know, Chris, I can't imagine.
I,
that we would
I don't know
do
the answer to that.
Okay.
so.
Yeah, we're very, very, very careful with student records.
Student records, right, thank you. Good.
Any other discussion?
I have one other thing.
Yes.
Just so that you're aware, I believe that item number 3 in the guidelines, I mean, we can't allow people to advertise their tutoring services, and I believe that teachers probably do this all the time. So in communicating this guideline about advertising your services, we'll need to do that. Really, when a parent is asking about tutoring, or if a student wants to be tutored, the teacher or the employee needs to say, there's a tutor list in the office.
Okay.
And they should just refer them to the list, and then they're not putting out something like, do you need tutoring this summer? Call
Good.
me to do that. Because then, again, we're in a situation where the building is being used, we have a captive audience here, and we can't have that kind of advertising going on. So that's the only purpose for that.
Yeah, and that's true for any product, not just for, any kind of sales pitch to students by teachers is generally prohibited.
So then, Chris, teachers who are on that tutor list and are gonna tutor someone, can they use their district classroom to do it during the summer? Or do they have to do it in their home or the home of the student?
Use of the school facilities would need to go through the facility use process.
And then you have to pay a fee? Yeah,
I believe so.
okay, thank you.
And that's just
That's
fairness
good.
with outside agencies
Yeah,
who want to
that's
use our
good.
buildings.
That's good.
Any other questions, discussion?
Now I understand, thank you.
I have one little picayunish thing.
Yes,
On line 19, the word individual should be plural, so if you could just add an S there. Employees, district-approved volunteers, or individuals working for an agency that has a contract with the district to perform services are the only individuals allowed.
Okay. Fine.
okay, we've made a couple small revisions to this, mainly the title and that,
Do you need a
Yes.
motion?
yes,
Okay. Are you ready for a motion?
ready for a motion,
Okay.
there was no more discussion.
I move that we accept the revisions to policy number 4134, tutoring during the school day, and potential new policy number 4134G, guidelines for tutoring during the school day as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. These are information items. The first one is policy 6145 sub 6, student overnight trips, and 6145 sub 6G, guidelines for student overnight trips. This was recommended by CNI committee and board member Barbara Brezink.
Okay. The reason that I brought this up is we just recently at CNI approved all of these field trips, lots.
Lots of field trips.
Right. And in going through every one, as I feel we need to do to make sure that all the forms are in order, et cetera, I picked up on one request that said the following: if a student is unable to pay for this excursion, the blank program will be happy to assist and work out an individual plan with that student to pay back the money over time. This is a practice that has worked very well in the past too. They would need to fill out a form. And I guess that we did not offer that option, that what we did is we have a form that should be attached to the packet that is filled out by the parent if they want financial assistance, and it's a district form. So my concern herein is, I'm wondering if we should have a packet that comes out of central office so that every packet we get has the same 6 pages or 5 pages, whatever it is, because there was a variety of stuff in here. And it wasn't all consistent, although they
and
covered base, but I think
Right.
we should have one packet that everybody
Well,
fills
there
out.
should be, and we've talked about this many, many times, and technically, you should not even be getting those unless they are completed in all of the uniform.
Well, we
And-
do.
And so I know, but I don't, I guess I would ask at that point, the chair of the CNI committee to
Yes.
simply say, these are going back, we will not act on these. And
Okay.
if it means that they're running out of time for the field trip, so be it. I mean, everyone knows that those packets are supposed to be completed with every T crossed and I dotted and everything else, and all the pages should be the same. And I think that, we'll do a reminder memo to the
Okay.
department that handles it.
'Cause
But, I mean,
unfortunately-
you should not even be looking at those unless they're.
Right. Well,
unless everything is
unfortunately,
there.
I did
Yeah.
mention it
Yeah.
at CNI, and it
Yeah.
passed anyway. They
Yeah.
passed all,
Yeah.
if you can remember, we passed all of these with
Yeah.
one vote. We didn't do
Right.
each school individually. But that is not, we don't make a deal with
No, we
with
don't.
parents.
No.
So-
And the policy kind of supports that. issue,
Yes.
too. So, but I think we just need to go back and make sure that
Okay.
every trip has the same number of pages. If it's not applicable, keep the page and write NA on it. But I mean, that way, you're not looking for something that, should be or shouldn't be there.
Right.
It's all got to be the
But
same.
would it not be sensible, correct me if I'm wrong, to just have the same packet in every school? Because every school does not
Right,
have the
no, I
same
mean,
packet.
it should be an exact uniform copy,
It should be. I mean, there's about 4 or 5
the same
things.
number of pages and the
Yeah.
same
And
information.
can we
Yeah.
ask the schools to be sure that those packets are on hand when this
Well,
time
again,
of the year
that's,
comes
that's,
along?
that's something we'll work with on the CNI department, that if they are not uniform, they go back and say, fill this out according to,
Okay,
the
do you,
uniform document.
do you want, I have a meeting coming up this Friday. Would you like me to bring this up with?
Well,
And you-
tomorrow we'll be working on that.
Okay, thank you very much, Ted.
I know how frustrating it is, and I think it's frustrating to everyone when you have those questions. They're big decisions, there's a lot of decisions to be
I
made.
mean, look at the
in a
questions
short
I
amount of
had.
time. Yeah.
So,
Ms. Rainishek.
Thank you. So is there a form, let's just say a teacher from South or a teacher from North, they can go to our website and it says an
Yeah,
application
we,
for
we,
overnight?
we have the drive.
So then why
yeah.
would it be different? Are they going to the office and picking up an older copy?
The most likely what they have are a lot of previous forms on hand, and they're
Yep.
gonna use them up because they're hard copy.
I
But
see.
again, it makes a confusing situation.
it does.
Yeah, so then, in the future, let's say if we get a stack like this, do we get one in spring and fall or just once
No,
a year?
just before we get them in
Well,
October.
I think,
Okay.
if you get them and, whether it's the board chair or anyone on CNI committee sees that everything isn't in place, they ought to notify CNI department ASAP and say, this isn't going forward because it's not complete, and it would go back to.
And we do that.
And I would hope that we'd have a little bit of quality control on that, that it wouldn't even get to that point before it got to the.
Well, it is done, Todd, because I know that individual members will call Mary Jo and
Yeah.
say, and then she'll pull it and,
Right,
or
right,
resubmit it, you know, so it is corrected. But I just was so surprised when
Yeah.
and I just couldn't forget that, because we don't make deals with parents
Well,
and
that was,
students.
yeah, that may have been a situation where the individual didn't
Right.
understand that particular piece.
Right, but we have to make sure, like Karen said, that
Right.
it's a packet that's got the same pages in the same order, so that everybody fills out the same thing. Then we would never have all these questions.
Right.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you very much.
Okay. That is a discussion item, so there will not be a vote on that. We have another discussion item on field trips, which is 6145 sub 7 and 6145 sub 7G, guidelines for field trips. And this was brought up by CNI and Board Member Barbara Brezink, so,
Troublemaker.
yes. Go ahead.
On guidelines for field trips, lines 23 through 33 on the first page. We have all of the things listed that we want to receive as far as information is concerned, but the one thing that was forgotten was need for financial assistance form or financial assistance form. That probably should be added as letter L.
Okay,
That was my only concern, Madam Chairman.
Do you have anything, Mr. Anderson?
So on that, Barb, let's say a student needs financial assistance, would that come from the PTA of that school?
The who?
The PTA of that school? You know how they sometimes.
no, it would have to
will-
come with the person
don't think so.
arranging
Okay.
organizing the trip would have to
Arrange.
list on there how they are going to assist students who couldn't afford it.
Okay.
I believe that's what Ms. Brezink is referring
Right.
to.
Right. And we do have a form, and it's here in the
But
packet.
again, I think we need to, what I'd like to do is I would ask Linda to work with Mary Jo to make sure, you know, the message is clear that we've got uniform set of forms and everyone uses that. And then we would send a draft out to the board, maybe with the Friday packet, or to this committee to review. And if that looks good, if that meets all the criteria, then that is the form that we use each and every time.
I guess what I was trying to ask was if, so, let's say we do have it up through L, let's say there's an L and it says need for financial assistance. Would the financial assistance come from PTA? Where does the financial assistance come
Well,
from?
that's,
Is it
that
district?
form would say where it's coming from.
I see, okay.
You know,
'Cause
whether it's coming from the
Does it?
school, whether it's coming from a club.
sometimes like our kids' school, like the PTA will say, oh, this field trip is cut in half this
Right,
time
right.
because we have
Yeah,
funds in the PTA.
yeah, exactly.
So I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, it would say where the funding's coming from.
Does it say on that particular request form where the money would come from?
Says, do you qualify for free and reduced lunch, yes or no? But it,
It doesn't say where the funds come from.
no.
No.
But that's easy enough to.
Well,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's usually the teacher will get the form from the student, and the teacher would then refer it accordingly
Yeah.
to administration in that building. I mean,
Right,
that's,
right, yeah. And it could be many areas. I mean, I could see there might be a certain level of student fundraising. There's, you know, like when I think of the band parents.
Right.
There's a number of
Right.
different opportunities to create the necessary resources. And all those would have to be listed.
right. Are there PTAs active in high school? Do you,
No.
I
not
think
middle
it's
school
more
either.
like booster clubs and band parents
That's
and
what
those
I
kind of
thought,
things.
yeah.
There is site council at each,
Yeah.
which I think serves as the PTA or PTO. But
Okay.
they have a lot of different types of booster clubs,
Yeah,
depending on the
right,
organization.
right. Thank you, Todd.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Pat.
Okay. And we'll continue working on that policy. Does anybody have anything that they want on the agenda for next month? Any new policy things?
I know we have a number of other ones coming forward in different areas, but off the top of my head, I can't think of what they are. I just know some people are working on some. So.
Good, okay.
Okay.
Lynn?
want to make changes to the field trip policy as suggested by Mrs.
Yes.
Brusink?
Right, just that L. I'll go
Just-
through, yeah.
So then we need a
We would need to,
act
Well,
on
I
it.
think we need to make changes, because this is not an action item, so we
Yeah.
make the changes, bring it
Bring
back
it
to
back.
vote. Yeah.
okay.
Because we have time on this. I mean, I don't think there's any field trip approval
No,
coming
there
up for
isn't.
a couple months, so.
Just that I wanted it to be
Yeah.
complete and clear and,
And I may look at some changes too about
Consistent.
the uniform
Got it.
processing of
right,
the applications too, so.
right. Good.
Okay. We have no other business, and we are adjourned, and we will be meeting January 20th, 2000.